Perlenbacher Bavarian Lagerbier.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I know I said I was going to be doing some British beer. That is coming. Don't fucking panic. It is on the way. I've done a few videos already. I am in the process of putting them up. But I just thought I'd get this one out of the way because I imagine a lot of people are in or going to Lidl's, and if they see this, they're going to be wondering what it's like. Well, if I honestly haven't looked at any beer reviewers on YouTube. I've just literally picked this up today, and I've decided to review it. I don't know what it's like, but I can tell you a few things about this beer. Firstly, Perlenbacher. It's a brand name that Lidl use. Now, it's usually contract brewed beer. Well, it is contract brewed beer. Perlenbacher as a brewery does not exist. I know people do rant and rave about the stuff that you get. Is it the Pilsner that they do in the green bottles? In my opinion, it's fucking dog shit. I know that twat, what's his face, the beer hooligan. I don't know what's happened to him. He ain't on YouTube no more, but he used to rave about how great that was. And I bought a bottle on the strength of his reviews, and it was fucking skunk to start off with, so I don't know where he was getting that idea from. And secondly, it was actually brewed in France, so fuck that. Not for me, thank you very much. But I saw this today and I thought, I'll pick this up. Now, I did think this was going to be some kind of novelty craft brewer who's done this, but on inspection on here, it said Bavarian Lager, and I thought, yeah, I bet that's never seen Bavaria. But if you look on the side, it has got the geographical protected status that Bavarian beers get. I don't know whether autofocus is picking that up or not, but you know what I'm talking about. So I thought, right, I'm definitely going to pick this up and do a little bit of research and see who's brewing this, because Perlenbacher were originally, well, not originally, no, that's a lie. Perlenbacher had a few contract breweries, and I think one of them was in, I can't remember the name of the brewery, but I think it was based in Frankfurt am Main, I think it was. And I thought for them to be brewing a Bavarian lager, putting the the blue and white House of Wittelbach crest on there and calling it Bavarian, it's all over the place. Bavarian Lagerbier, Bayerisch Helles Bier, brewed according to the German purity law, Bavarian lager across the top. Everything about this says Bavarian. And I thought, well, it has to be brewed in Bavaria to get that geographical protected status. So I thought, I'm going to find out who's brewing that. And I should have known who it was, because the biggest, well, not the biggest contract brewer, but one of the, and they are a big brewery, don't get me wrong, it's Oettinger. And I don't know whether you've heard of them before or not, but Oettinger are a really big brewery. A very popular one as well. Between 2004 and 2013, their beer was the best-selling beer in Germany. Now, that's no mean feat. And their beer is very cheap. It has a reputation for being drunk by, I know people use derogatory terms for alcoholics and homeless people and people down on their luck, but it has a reputation of being a cheap beer, and it's drunk all over Germany apparently. And I've actually drunk their beer before, and I've bought it from Lidl's. And Oettinger beer, I know it gets a bad rap, but I didn't think it was that bad. I've certainly tasted a lot worse. Certainly tasted a lot worse coming out of Bavaria, i.e. Oettinger. Anyway, I'm not going to fucking start ranting and raving about Oettinger, but I thought I'm going to investigate this and I'm going to review it, because yes, Oettinger are, shall we say, a supposedly cheap brewery, but there's a reason they keep their beer cheap. And this intrigued me, and it's quite interesting how they do it. They don't advertise. Not at all. You don't see Oettinger advertisements anywhere. You don't see Oettinger marketing. Do they even have a marketing department? Probably not, because secondly, their staff levels are very low. And how do they do that? They automate a lot of the brewing, and the brewing process is, as you may or may not know, it's computerized now. So, and again, this goes back to, I'm not going to get into the whole AI thing, but automation. I mean, it's been around for years. It's been around since I was a kid. You know, you've seen assembly lines building cars and stuff like that, with robots building cars, etc. And that's going to be a big thing, and it's going to cost people's jobs. But Oettinger seem to have embraced that, and they've kept their staffing levels down. But instead of sort of maximising the profits, they've kept the beer cheap, which is good, especially if it's half decent beer, which, in my opinion, it's not the worst beer in the world. And I don't care what anyone says. I know I'm going to sound like I don't know, a fraud, if you like. But to me, to my taste, to my palate, it didn't seem that bad. Certainly tasted worse. Certainly tasted worse from Germany. Certainly tasted worse over here. But this stuff, I'm wondering whether this is a rebadged beer or not, as the case may be. Another thing about Oettinger as well, this is quite interesting, they don't use any third-party companies. So, for example, a lot of breweries now, especially the big breweries, they use third-party logistic companies, so transport companies who specialise in transporting liquids and stuff like that. I don't mean the big tankers, but transporting, you know, kegs of beer and stuff like that. They'll employ them. Of course, there's costs incurred to that because the third-party logistics company has to make money. The brewery has to make money as well, and that cost is passed on to the consumer. Oettinger don't do that. All their transport and logistics is in-house. So the lorries that come with their beer are all directly employed by Oettinger. They're not a third-party transport company, which is interesting as well, and it keeps the price down. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. And they contract brew. And they contract brew for Lidl. Well, they contract brew this particular beer for Lidl, but they also do the Perlenbacher beer, which in my opinion isn't great. I'm not going to re-review that again. It's there's, I think, a different contract brewer, or there was a different contract brewer brewing that. I don't know whether Oettinger are doing that now as well. I don't know, but I'm not really going to review that again because it's in a green bottle, and yeah, you've seen me what I go like when beer's in green bottles. I did see in Lidl's today they did have Budvar in boxes, and it was completely sealed. So I might pick some of that up for Crimbo because Morrison's have stopped doing Budvar in cans. The dirty bastards. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's get on, investigate this beer. Right, this is a 500ml can. It is 4.7%. Funny enough, I did find what hops they use in it. No idea on the malt, but I imagine it's localish malt from Oettinger. But they use two different types of hops. Now, you have to take this with a pinch of salt. I would imagine it's either hop oil or hop extract. I would very, very much doubt indeed that they are using whole leaf hops in contract brewed beer. So I'm imagining it's hop oil, which, if done properly, isn't a bad thing. And I would imagine if they're automating stuff, then hop oil would be the easiest way to control or to automate the brewing process. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're using hop oil. But the hop oil that they're using, there's two types of German hop they've used in this. And they're I wouldn't say off the wall hops, but not the kind of thing you'd generally see in Bavarian beer. So the first hop is Hercules. Now, Hercules you do find in Bavarian beer. Both these hops you do find in Bavarian beer, I will say, but they're not the go-to hops, if you know what I mean. But Hercules, that's one of the hops they've used in here. Hercules is a traditional German hop, traditional Bavarian hop from the Hallertau region, and it has some quite interesting types of flavour. So it's got melon flavour, so that's the sweetness, or it contributes to the sweetness that you get from Bavarian beers. It's also got a nice pepper spice on it as well, and there's also a piney note to it too. So it can be used as a bittering hop, and potentially that could be the bittering hop in this. It's also an aroma hop, so I don't know. But again, this is hop oil, so who knows? The second hop they're using in this is Taurus hops. Now, Taurus hops are a traditional Bavarian hop. They've been around since 1995. They are derived, I think, from the Mittelfrüh. They are a more robust type hop, and they've got some interesting flavours and characteristics. The flavours, some people get caramel in there, which is unusual. You don't normally get caramel, or chocolate even. Some people have said it's chocolate. I don't know. I haven't really got that amount of palate that I can discern chocolate in a hop. It's very, very difficult to do so when you're drinking it in a beer because, of course, it could be the malt. So chocolate and caramel, I'm going to say that with a very, very guarded tone because I don't really believe that that's the case, but I could be wrong. I don't know. It's also got curry in there. Some people get a curry note to it as well. Now, I quite like curry, and I like curry with a beer. I'm not sure whether I like curry in beer, but that is one of the flavour profiles on this hop. There's also a fair amount of spice on that too. But another interesting characteristic about this hop, it contains something called xanthohumol. I think that's how it's pronounced. Xanthohumol or something like that. You get it in red wine. But the thing is, they say there's health benefits in red wine. And to be honest, I fucking hate red wine. I hate wine in general. I hate everything about it. It's French, it's Italian. Whether it be French, whether it be Italian, I don't like it. I don't mind cooking with it. I'll do a nice bolognese with some red and white wine, but I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. But it does contain that xanthohumol. I think that's how it's pronounced. It begins with an X anyway. Look it up. And apparently Taurus hops contains 200% more of that ingredient, that supposed health-giving ingredient, in its makeup. And it's supposed to be good for the heart. It's supposed to be good for detoxing and all that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it is listed as having that. So there's a little tidbit of information. Don't shoot the messenger. So there you go. That's all I'm going to say about it. I've rambled on too long. Let's get it home. Let's see what's going on. Right, a can for a change. No fizz ups and no bottle caps to worry about. Right, this glass is not clean. I do apologise for that. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, there it is in the glass. What are we getting on the nose? Wow, sweetness. Lots and lots of sweetness. Cool, that really is sweet. Yeah, the heads dissipate quite quickly. I imagine that's down to the glass, the state of the glass, so don't read into that much. You know, I said I was going to review some English beer. Well, I tried some of the Woodford's, I think it's called Skullcracker. It's supposed to be a strong ale. Disgusting. Don't bother. I really don't know how that Woodford's brewery is still going because their bottled beer is fucking awful. I tried that Woodford's Wherry, and that was, to me, that was dog shit. I tried that Woodford's Skullcracker, and I tried the other one, their Nelson Lager, and all their beer has been crap. And I really hate slagging off an English brewery, but that Skullcracker was just full of sugar. Now, I know it's supposed to be a strong beer, it's 7%, but I'm glad I didn't review it. That would have been a 1 out of 10. It did go down the sink. So, yeah, averted a rant there. But there you go. There it is in the glass. It looks pitiful, but I imagine that's because of the state of the glass, and I do apologise on that count. I'm not going to deduct marks for that, but it does appear that it's got a fair amount of carbonation in there. Anyway, the aroma is, it's very sweet grain, but I'm not sure whether it's an artificial sweetness. It's very, very honey-like, almost like a honey beer. Interesting. And that's it. It's just like a very sweet type of grainy note that's on there, and not much else. So, without further ado, let's get it down my fat Gregory Peck. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. Let me dive in again. That ain't great. Finish body, watery. There is a note of bitterness on the finish, quite spicy, black pepper, which is relatively pleasant, but it tastes macro. And when I say macro, what do I mean by that? Well, there's grainy notes on the palate, not much of a finish. I would have expected, or liked, a little bit more of a bread type finish, but I'm not getting that for some reason. Now, glass is a little bit cleaner now, I've swished it round, so there it is with the head. It's quite light, but there's that sweetness on there, that sweet grain, which translates to the palate, but not to the finish. It's kind of sticking to my palate, which most good Bavarian beers don't do. I mean, it's kind of oily, if you know what I mean. I know that's a weird thing to say, but that's what it's like. It sort of sticks to your palate. There's no real big finish on it. It's quite cold, but it doesn't have the body of good Bavarian beers that I've tried in the past. The finish is macro-esque. There's like a cheap grain and some spice on that. Nothing in a blindfold test. If you told me this was brewed in Bavaria, I would call you a big fat liar. And all in all, I am not impressed with this, considering it makes a big thing about Bavarian Lagerbier, Bayerisch Helles Bier, Bavarian Lagerbier. It's all over it, and you've got the blue and white. I mean, I know they say they don't have they don't have a marketing department at Oettinger, but this isn't Oettinger. This is Lidl's who've done this. So Lidl's marketing department have said, just this is brewed in Bavaria, so just fucking slap everything on there. Unfortunately, it looks like it's trying too hard, because the product ain't that great. No nasties in there. That's what it's a good point that it's got. But it's unremarkable. If you think you're going to be getting an Augustiner or a Hacker-Shaw clone, then you're not. It's way off there. It tastes like a supermarket beer. And when I said, is this a rebadged Oettinger, I do remember Oettinger tasting nicer than this. So yeah, this is just bang average. So what is the verdict on Perlenbacher Bavarian Lagerbier? Well, if you're in Lidl's, you're probably going to see this. And I will say to you, yes, it may be cheap, but if you can get a Budvar in a case that hasn't been exposed to the light, get that, because this really, I don't think, is worth the money. It really ain't that great. I'm saying that, but there's no nasties in it. It's relatively drinkable. The body isn't fantastic. There's no real Bavarian character in it, i.e. the big liquid bread and the huge finish on it. There's a bit of a spicy finish on it, which is relatively pleasant, but it's lacking that big malty backbone that I would expect to find in a good Bavarian beer. Now, you have to take things into consideration. Lidl's want to sell this cheap. I think this was under £2. So Lidl's have to make a profit, and in turn Oettinger have to make a profit. Now Oettinger are pretty good at the not the cost cutting, but keeping costs low. There's a difference, and I think this is reflected in the product. And all in all, I would not fall for the marketing flim flam that Lidl have put on there. It's just bang average. I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, I will give you this. It's better than the French shit that they sell on the shelves. I mean, that stuff, the fucking 2% little dumpies. Fuck that. I wouldn't put a fire out with that because I wouldn't insult the fucking fire. But this stuff is, I would imagine, slightly better than your Carlins and the Stella clone that they have there as well. Is that Lidl or is that Aldi? They do that Stella clone. Or is it Saint Etienne? I am not fucking trying that. That looks fucking horrific, that does. But this stuff is just bang average. But it's not a chuck down a sink job. And there's no nasties in it. So there's good and there's bad. Take things into consideration. It's a cheap beer, contract brewed by a brewery who already keep costs low, and you get an idea of what this tastes like. For all that, and with that being said, I think I'll probably give it a 5 out of 10 because I'm not chucking this down a sink. And I have tasted worse. However, it's pissing me off that it's got all this Bavarian nonsense on the side and it really doesn't taste like a Bavarian beer at all. So, if you want to impress someone, keep your hack ashore for yourself and then fill this out for someone else who you don't like. And yeah, Robert's your father's brother, as they say. So yeah, I'm going to give that a 5 out of 10. If you see it in Lidl, check out the other stuff. If you like wheat beer, you've got your Sport for Choice, you've got Franciscana, and you've got the Patronus stuff, which ain't bad. So if you don't like that, then you've got your ales there. I think they do, well, around my way, they used to do Shepherd Neame beer, they don't do that now. They've got Old Speckled Hen, which is a fucking bag ladies period, still doing it in clear bottles. Fucking Green King, you arsehole. Shepherd Neame got the message and done it with their Whitstable Bay stuff and all the clear bottle stuff, and their beer tastes fantastic, as I knew it would. But there you go. I'm not going to go into a rant. Let's reverse out of that cul-de-sac. This stuff, 5 out of 10. Recommended with, well, not recommended, but not, if there's nothing else. Put it that way, if there's nothing else. This is better than the collaboration between Budvar and, who's the other? Thornbridge. So if you see that and you see this, get this, because that stuff is fucking dog shit. There you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.